Hello and welcome to Bread of Life, a daily devotional program which each week features a different area pastor. Our speaker for this week is Pastor Tom Tinker of Meriden.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to our series on the divine imitation, made in His image, living His way. Today I would like to discuss the idea of living in divine isolation. Now, when I talk about divine isolation, I'm not referring to living out in some wilderness valley all alone with just you, the trees, mountains, and rivers surrounding you. No, I want us to consider today those moments in our lives when we feel all alone, even if we are surrounded by other people, or when we are faced with an extremely difficult decision or situation, and the only one we can turn to is God. Divine isolation simply means to be alone with God in our thoughts and in our prayers. When Jesus began to teach His disciples about the essence of prayer, He said in Matthew 6:6, "But you, when you pray, go into your inner room or closet, close your door and pray to your Father who is in secret, and your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you." There are times we just need to be alone with God, isolated from the distractions of the world, when we can pour our hearts out to Him in sincerity and truth. Psalm 51 seems to be one of those types of prayers when we are totally honest with God. "Behold, I was brought forth in iniquity, and in sin my mother conceived me," praised King David, following his adulterous affair with Bathsheba. "Create in me a clean heart, O God," is a prayer we have all needed to pray several times in our lives. "And renew a steadfast spirit within me. Restore to me the joy of your salvation, and sustain me with a willing spirit." When we are able to be alone with God and let it all out, the cleansing, purifying cry in secret is rewarded with God's promise to wash us whiter than snow, and to indeed return joy and gladness to our lives. Of course, there are other times when our inner closet may not be so secretive, even if we wish it could be. Have you ever felt alone in a crowded room, or while sitting with friends who just can't seem to understand your problems? Job was like that. In a single disastrous day, he lost all of his livestock, basically his livelihood, and most of his hired hands were killed as well. But the most devastating loss was when a severe desert storm killed his 7 children as they dined together. And lastly, Job himself was struck with a severe case of boils from the top of his head to the soles of his feet. These menacing attacks from Satan left God's blameless and upright servant weeping in sackcloth and ashes. His wife even told him to curse God and die. Then 3 friends came with the intention to sympathize with him and comfort him. So they sat with him without saying a word for 7 days. Yet Job was still about as isolated as one can be. I'm sure most of you know the story of how, after their seemingly gracious efforts, well-meaning though they might have been, these 3 friends began to verbally ridicule Job and accuse him of committing egregious sins against God. Otherwise, these terrible events would not have befallen him. Yes, Job was alone, but he was about to enter into divine isolation, that secret and safe place where only God can satisfy our weary souls. While enduring the judgments of his 3 friends, Job was able to search deep into his own spirit and soul and utter the famous words of confident hope in his Creator, as recorded in Job 19:25-27. "As for me, I know that my Redeemer lives, and at the last he will take his stand on the earth. Even after my skin is destroyed, yet from my flesh I shall see God, whom I myself shall behold, and whom my eyes will see, and not another." Even after such devastating personal loss, and in the midst of false accusations, Job, this man of integrity, affirms God as the only one who can save him. Once the ranting and raving has ended, God supernaturally speaks from a whirlwind. He does chastise Job for his lack of knowledge and understanding of the works of God, and Job properly responds with a confession and proclaims in chapter 42, verses 5 and 6, "I have heard of you by the hearing of the ear, but now my eyes see you. Therefore I retract, and I repent in dust and ashes." In His mercy and grace, the Almighty acknowledges Job's confession and says to the 3 misguided friends, "My servant Job will pray for you, for I will accept him so that I may not do with you according to your folly, because you have not spoken to me what is right, as my servant Job has." Friends, while there may seem to be times in our lives when God is silent, those are the times when He needs to have us in His own divine isolation, unstained by the ways of the world, so that we will realize that it is not the issues, problems, or situations that govern our lives, but that God truly is the God of our circumstances. Thank you for joining us today, and I hope you can join us again tomorrow for a lesson in divine inspiration.
You've been listening to Pastor Tom Tinker of Meriden, and this has been Bread of Life, a program to encourage you from God's Word.